This week we're creating an eye-catching, extra sparkly birthday card, and we're doing it two different ways. First, we'll create the entire card from scratch using Procreate, and then we'll also take it offline and I'll show you how to set up your file so you can actually print foil at home. Then we'll cover it in rhinestones for an extra unique, tactile experience for a gorgeous result. Links to everything you'll need to complete this project at home are right in the video description. Let's get started. So this card is actually a lot simpler to set up than you probably think it is, and those are always my favorite tutorials to create. So what we're going to do is put the number, the age for your birthday card right in the middle. This is going to be a landscape orientation greeting card, so we're going to keep this file exactly as it comes in. This is my A2 printable canvas template, and I'll leave a link to this in the video description. It's part of a larger set of stationary printable canvas templates that you can use at home. But if you want to get familiar with the file or you want a free version to play around with, I'll also include my free 4x6 card template as well. So I'm using this template exactly as it comes in. It's going to be landscape orientation. We're going to place the number right in the middle of the bottom section, and then we'll create some decoration around it, and I'll show you the differences between setting it up digitally or if you'd like to take it offline and print it, which is my personal favorite. So first we need to add in our date. So I'm going to double tap where black is to select black, and then we need to add some typable text. You could also hand letter this part, but I have a font that I just really love for this, so that's what I'm going to use here. All you have to do is hit the wrench, hit the add category, add text, and I'm just going to use the number 35 for this. So I will select it with my finger, hit the double A over here. I'll leave a link to this as well. This font is called Tenez, and I like the black version. I'm going to increase the size, position it, and see how it feels in here. Come up to like 165 on my iPad, but depending on your iPad specs, that size might be a little different for you. The other thing that I'm going to do is change this to outline. This is temporary, but you'll see why in just a minute. So I'm going to hit done on this and just make sure that feels really good. I'm going to snap this so it will snap to my center right here. So I've got a good starting point, and that feels good. All right, create a brand new layer, and I'm going to grab the default monoline brush. This is located in your calligraphy category on the left side, and I've pinned mine, so it's really easy to do that. Once you've used the brush, if you come up here to recents, you can toggle it over and just hit pin, and then it'll always show up in here. So that's what I do. So here is my monoline, and all I'm going to do is come around this and make large circles and small circles. If you want to adjust the brush size, you can also just stamp in your circles, so that's also an option. I like kind of freehanding it. It gives it a little bit more of an organic feel, but feel free to do whatever you'd like. So what I like to do is vary this up, and I make it pretty dense the closer to the number I get. So I'm going to have a lot of larger ones close to my number, and there's going to be a larger quantity as well. And then as I move outward, it's going to become more sparse. So they're going to get tinier and further apart. So that is all I'm doing right here. I've got my dots all set now, but I do want to continue them onto the back. I just love the look of that. Even though I'm not planning to add any rhinestones to the back, I will have some foil that extends there. And they're just going to be the sparse kind. They're not going to be large or really dense or anything. And I made a stamp out of my logo, so I'll add that to the back as well. I'm going to create a new layer now. So I've got all of my dots on one layer, create that brand new layer, and I've made just a stamp of my logo. So I'm going to rotate that around and just snap it on that vertical line. And then I'll reduce the size of it a little bit too. And then just erase any dots that are around the logo. All the black areas are going to be foil areas when we print it out, but I will show you how to adapt this if you just want to keep it digital. But the last thing I want to do here is add a watercolor wash texture to the back. I just love the way that watercolor textures look right against foil. So this is going to be pretty subtle. It's not going to be anything too crazy. I'm going to create a brand new layer, drag this underneath my 35, and I've got a pink color right here. You can choose any color that you'd like, and I'm going to head into my messy watercolor brush set to the washes category, and from wash 18 to 27, these are my favorite background washes, and you can use a mixture of them however you would like. I'll grab wash 21, and you just want it a fairly large size right here. I don't want to scale it up, but this looks like it'll fit here pretty well. I create a new layer for each wash texture that I add in. That way I can kind of move and manipulate them until I'm happy with their placement. I feel like this one's a little too small, So let's increase the size of that, stamp it in again, and then I just have a little more flexibility with scale and positioning. I'm going to have it extend to the back of the card just so I've got that consistency of the continuation of both the foil and the watercolor. Create a brand new layer. You don't have to do too many of these. I usually do like 4 or 5 of them, just until it feels like it's dense enough without going too overboard. All right, I think that feels pretty good now. If you have any areas that you just want to soften a bit, like I noticed I've got this hard line right here, I just want to soften it slightly. So I'll come to this layer, grab my smudge tool and change to, in the messy extras category of the messy watercolor set, there's a Bloom and Bleed brush. This is my favorite smudge brush with watercolor. And I can just push the edges and soften them just slightly so they blend in with the background texture. So I still get that hard edge where I want it to go, but when it's overlapping, sometimes it can just feel like too much or a little too distracting. So I just kind of double check and make sure I don't have any hard lines here. And that feels good. So in order to get this ready for print, the last thing I need to do is come back to the 35. And I mentioned earlier, I was going to leave this as an outline text layer for a reason. So now I'll show you what that reason is. You can see when I created the dots around it, I went really close to the outline, but now if I enter this text, so I'm just going to tap on this and choose edit text. If I hit the double A right here and just turn this off, now I have a small white space buffer around it, which will just make it much more readable once it's all foiled. So you can see I've got that little extra distance now. I don't have any of these that are butting right up against it. And if I overdrew a little bit right here, if I come to that layer, here's my dot layer, and I just select it, make sure freehand is selected down here, I can just draw around it. I can rescale it or reposition it right here. So I just kind of do a final check, and that saves me more cleanup time later on if I start with an outline around it. So this one's all set to print as our printed version, but I'm going to make a duplicate file of this right now, and I'll show you how I adapt this if you just want to keep it digital. Now that we have our file all set up for printing this out so we can create it by hand, I also mentioned that I'd show you a digital version of this, so I'm going to do that now. Here's how this one came out. So what I would do is just come up here to the wrench canvas and then crop and resize and just crop into this outline right here. But what I did was I used the Shimmer and Shine brush set, which I'll leave a link to in the video description. And I used a few different brushes for the foil. For the 35, I used the foil pen on dark, and I just created a clipping mask. So I created a brand new layer above the 35, painted in the gold, and the Shimmer and Shine brush set comes with my Magic Metals swatch file. So you'll have access to these colors. And I really like the top gold and the middle gold when you're using the foil pen on dark brush. And all I did was just scribble it out and then apply a clipping mask. So you just tap on the layer thumbnail and choose clipping mask, and it'll mask it right into the 35, so you don't have to be precise at all. And then with the dots that were around here, I just used a mixture of my silvers and then the pink that I was using, and I did this exact same thing. I just added a clipping mask, and you can stack clipping masks. So I put the silver on one layer and then created a brand new layer above it, applied a clipping mask, and it all masked into the dots that we drew earlier. I couldn't help myself. I had to add even more in there. So I used the glitter dust on light brush using the pink color and just added a little bit more glitter. So I kept everything that I used. I just applied clipping masks to the black parts, and then I can just crop in here and it'll be perfectly sized for a digital greeting card. So that's just a quick overview if you'd like to keep this digital. But I'm ready to print this out and hold it in my hands. So let's return back to the file that we originally created and we'll get it all ready to print. Now that we've completed the digital version, let's talk about the physical card. I'm going to return to the original file because this was a duplicate of the original one that we made. So we need to talk about two important things. The first thing we need to do is print out the watercolor texture just on its own on an inkjet printer. The next thing we need to do is print out all the black parts, including our trim marks, using a black laser printer. In order to create that foil effect, we need to adhere it to black toner. And the only way to do that is to print the artwork using a black laser printer. So I'm going to print just the black portions using my black laser printer. Then we're going to laminate the foil on top of that. And it's so cool. I love that process. So the first thing we need to do is just print the pink watercolor. And a really easy way to just isolate the pink portions of this is to group them together. And then on the visibility of this group, just tap and hold, and it'll just show the watercolor. Next, what I need to do is print this on my home inkjet printer. I've already got double-sided matte photo paper loaded in there, so now all I have to do is print. In order to do that, we're going to hit the wrench, share, choose TIFF. Down here, you're going to choose print. I've got my printer selected. Now tap on media and quality. We're going to increase the print quality to best, and under media type, make sure photo is selected. I always like going back and double checking that everything is saved. I'm on letter size paper, and now I can print. Now that we've printed out the watercolor texture using our inkjet printer on double-sided matte photo paper, now we need to send it through our black laser printer. So we need to just isolate the black portions of our artwork. In order to do that, we can come back to the isolated group that we created before we printed this. Just tap and hold on the visibility check and everything else will come back on. Now all we need to do is toggle off the watercolor texture, and then we also need to turn off the outline layer and the bleed layer, which are noted right up here. So when this prints out, it will only be printing the black artwork as well as our cut and score lines, which are pretty important for us to trim our card properly. Now that this is ready to go, we can hit our wrench, go to share, TIFF again, choose print, and this time just make sure you've got the right printer selected. I'm printing from the LaserJet, so I'm going to select that. And down here under media and quality, you'll want to make sure that media type is either heavy or bond paper. I've had better luck with my prints when I choose bond paper instead of heavy, but they both work pretty well. So then I'll come back and just make sure print quality is best. Go back to options, make sure everything looks correct right here, and then you can print. Now it's time for one of my favorite parts of this entire process, which is applying foil to our design. We're using a laminator to adhere the foil to our toner, so I've turned that on. I've applied the level 4 setting to it. It adds a bit more heat, which is really important for a reason I'm going to get to in just a minute. But first we need to size this out and put our foil on our design. So I've got the envelope. This is the laminating envelope right here, this plastic thing. And then I've got my design, and I've got a sheet of cheap copy paper. So what this is going to do, and this is why we need level 4, is it's going to go over the cut and the score lines, because if the design sits in here and the foil is covering just the design, but the cut and the score lines are exposed, it'll actually adhere the toner to the envelope, and then it'll get on your future laminations. So you want to make sure you're covering those. So I just use a piece of copy paper on top of them. It sticks to the copy paper then instead of the plastic, and then I'm all good to go. All right, so what we need to do is size our foil to our design. So I'm going to open this up. I will hold this to about here, give myself a cut line. We'll take our foil and make sure the entire design is covered. That looks good. And as I mentioned before, we want to make sure we're covering the cut and the score lines. So that's where this comes in. Place that on top, they're really tight together. Open up the laminating envelope. And now we're ready to put it into the laminator, and then we can do our grand reveal with our foil. Laminator is all done, so let's check out our foil. We're going to open up the laminating envelope. We can take this top sheet off, which you can see we got the score and the cut lines, so that's why we needed that on there. And now we can peel this off. So pretty. I love that part so much. You can see how pretty that looks. And now we need to cut out our card. So I've got a cork-backed ruler, and we'll do the score first. I'm using Cricut's score tool, but you can also use the backside of a utility knife, a pen that doesn't work, or a bone folder. I like using a utility knife. I find it to be much safer and more stable than an X-Acto knife. And you just want to make sure you don't cut all the way through the paper so you can keep your other cut lines. We've got our card all cut out, so let's fold along that score line. And you can use a bone folder if you want to make it extra sharp. And then I lay it back out afterwards, and now we'll apply our rhinestones. I've got this set of pink rhinestones that I'm going to just open up and dump in this box. Now we need some glue. I like using this liquid fusion glue, but I put it in a smaller bottle. It's just got a tiny needle on the end, so it's easier to apply and be more exact with everything. So that's what I like using. And then I have a rhinestone picker. I like using the wax end of it, so you can just grab the little ones. I use a lot of little ones. This rhinestone picker set also came with a set of tweezers, and the tweezers are really helpful for picking up the larger rhinestones, which I'm going to use a few of those, so it might be a little easier than the wax end. But for the majority of things and the small ones, this part works really well. So I kind of break this up into sections, and I will put glue on some of the gold dots and then in some of the white space areas as well. I just want it to feel really dense and just like sparkle overload. So I will just pick and choose. I don't want to touch my numbers though. I want those to be really easy to be seen. You only want to put a little bit of glue at a time because it does dry pretty quickly. So you want to make sure you take care of what you've got first. So as I get closer to the numbers, I'm going to mix up the white, the crystal looking ones, and the pink ones. And I'm going to vary the size as well. Once I've gone around the entire card, I recheck and make sure that I don't have any gaps, so I fill those in if I see any, and then the card is complete.